The village I'm from is secluded and isn't easy to find unless someone from the village acts as a guide. Surrounded by a dense forest, anyone could easily lose their way. But even if we were far from the world, we were a small group that didn't surpass 100 people, making everyone know each other. Everyone was friendly and eager to help someone in need. Everyone treated each other equally, so there wasn't any envy throughout the village. Everything pointed out to be the perfect village there is, but there was a catch. Something that no one talked about that happened every 20 years that I came to witness. I was around 6 years old when it happened. I had a nice person who took care of me whenever my parents had to leave the village. Her name was Gilda, and she was the sweetest girl in the village. She was always eager to help anyone and always played with me, even when she didn't have to take care of me. Everything was perfect in my life, that is, until I was getting closer to Gilda's 20th birthday. The whole village started being extra nice to Gilda's parents, bringing them extra food and stuff, to the point of doing a get-together with the whole village as Gilda the main focus point. Everyone seemed to be happy with a lot of singing and dancing, except for Gilda and her parents. I got close to Gilda and asked her, "What's wrong, Gilda? Are you not happy that it's your birthday?" Gilda gave me a forced smile and patted my head before pulling me into a hug. "No matter what happens, even if I'm gone, I hope you never go through something like this." I didn't know those words were going to be the last that I will hear from her. At the time, I didn't know what it meant until a few days later. It was past midnight. I got woken up by whispers. When I took a peek from the window, I saw a group of people covered in white bells holding lanterns around Gilda, thus dressed in a white kimono. They continued walking until they were out of view. Curious, I sneaked away from my house and followed them, making sure to keep my distance. Even without any source of light, I was able to see enough with the full moon that was high in the night sky. But who would have thought that this would become my biggest regret, for what I saw still burns deep into my memory to this day. I saw a few people tie Gilda to a tree, with her mouth covered with who knows what, as the other people started saying some weird chants. Suddenly, I heard a low growl coming from behind where Gilda was, and a long white hand with black claws appeared from behind the tree and stabbed Gilda in the stomach. What happened next made me close my eyes and cover my ears. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to block out the noises that were happening feet away from where I was. Even though Gilda had something in her mouth to muffle her cries out, I could still hear her agony right in my ears. Unable to take it anymore, I got up and ran as fast as I could until I couldn't hear anything anymore. I stumbled a few times until I couldn't get up anymore. I laid there without any thoughts in my head, even when I could feel the rocks digging into my skin. But even that pain wasn't enough to make me get up. I closed my eyes for I don't know how long until I felt something soft in my face. When I opened my eyes, I saw a white fox. I slowly sat up and looked around, and I realized that I had gotten lost. The fox made a small noise as if to follow him, and almost like a puppet, I just stood up and I followed it. I don't know how long I walked until my home came into view. The fox stood next to the door and waited for me to go inside. I kneeled to touch the fox. At first, the fox froze, as if debating whether to let me touch him or not. I stopped my hand halfway, and the fox got close to my hand, permitting me to pet it. That's when hot tears started falling. I wanted to scream, I wanted to yell, but I held back, or else my parents would find out that I sneaked away. The fox got close to me and licked my tears until I finally calmed down. I knew I had to go to bed before my parents found out. I patted its head one last time before going inside my home, not before telling the fox thank you. I went to wash my face and hands and checked my clothes in case there was anything wrong with them before heading into my bed. and when I looked down to see the bruises that the rocks must have left on my skin, they were gone. I wondered if it was all the foxes doing. That night, I was unable to sleep. The gruesome scene of Gilda was burned into my mind. Days later, the village decided to say that Gilda had decided to leave the village to start a new life somewhere. But I knew the truth. That wasn't the case. She was just a sacrifice for that unknown demon. When I asked my parents if that was the truth, that Gilda did leave, they just looked at me with a sad expression and just said yes. I didn't bother asking again after that. I knew my parents weren't going to tell me the truth, and there was no need. It was a secret of the village that only adults knew. After that, 13 years passed by. I had a small sister who had just turned 4. As for me, I was 19. I was getting close to the same age that Gilda was sacrificed. Throughout the years, I became someone distant. People looked at me weirdly because I wasn't the same as everyone else my age. I kept to myself and I never asked for help. The only one who was close to me was my little sister, who was unaware of all the weird looks people would send my way. But I didn't care. If they looked at me that way, they were all false people, pretending to be happy behind sacrifices. I picked up my sister and headed home. When I arrived, my mother asked if I could go bring a bucket of clean water from the nearby well. It was getting dark, but I knew the village like the back of my hand. The demon is starting to ask for a sacrifice again, and this time, he wants your daughter, Chief. The moment I heard that, I quickly kneeled down behind a bush. I could only hear which direction the voices were coming from, even though I couldn't see them. I could hear the chief getting agitated. No, I wouldn't allow my daughter to be the next sacrifice. The person that was with him was trying to make him understand. We can't go against the demon's wishes. Who knows what may happen to the village if we don't listen? I don't care. I'll find a replacement that would take her place, but you must stay quiet and not let anyone else know the truth. I tried to get closer to listen to them more, but the voices started moving away until I couldn't hear them anymore. My heart was beating fast and my breathing became uneven. The images from many years ago came into my mind and I felt my throat tighten. I was relieved that my sister was safe. They wouldn't dare break any more rules that they weren't going to follow the demon's wishes. I got the bucket of water and headed back home. Everything was going well until it was a week away from my birthday, when we got the unfortunate surprise of the whole village starting to drop by gifts to our home, and that's when I knew I was next. I was forced to sit in the middle, just like Gilda did many years ago. Everyone was happy, especially the chief. He came by to talk to my parents, saying, "You have the honor of the village in your hands. You must be proud parents that your daughter got chosen." My parents said nothing. I could see the sadness in their eyes. The chief then walked to me and rested his hand on my shoulder. "You have the village at your shoulders," he said before walking away. I could still feel the heaviness of his hand on my shoulder as the celebration continued. Hours passed until it finally ended and everyone went home. When we were in my home, my parents held me tight while my little sister didn't know what was going on, but still got close and hugged my leg. "What if we run away? We must still have time," my mother said. "Yeah, let's get the things we need and leave right away before they get here." I heard my parents say and I stopped them. "Mom, Dad, you can't do that. Who knows what may happen to you guys, and little Aya would get caught. Aya's too small for a long trip and we aren't prepared." Hearing that, my mother started sobbing as she wrapped me in her arms. Then a knock on the door made everyone in the home jump. When my father went to open the door, it was the chief holding a white kimono towards my father. "Make Mallory wear this. It's a tradition. We're going to be outside whenever she's ready," he said before walking away. My father closed the door and threw the kimono to the floor. "I won't allow this," my father said, but I kneeled down to pick up the kimono and left to my room to get changed. Once I put it on, I looked down to look at it as it slid in my hands to my stomach. I felt a shiver down my back and I wanted to cry until little Aya came into my room to hug me. "I don't want you to go anywhere. Stay here. little Aya said. And the fear I had banished. If I were to lose my life, I would do it for her. I hugged Aya and I picked her up. You have to grow big and strong and have a happy life. She rested her head against my shoulder and started walking to where my parents were. I handed Aya to my mom and my dad took my hand and I felt something cold. Use this to defend yourself when the time comes. I'll be sure to follow close behind. I will save you, my father said in a whisper before another knock interrupted us. We knew we couldn't prolong this any longer, and we said our goodbyes. The thing that my father gave me was a knife that I hid inside my kimono between my chest. I passed through the door, and the people with white bells were all waiting for me to get in the middle. I turned one last time to see my family's faces before it was time to go. The walk was long. There were a few times that I was about to trip. My heart was racing with every step. I knew what was going to happen. I wanted to run away, but I didn't want to endanger my family. Who knows what the village could do to them? I bit my bottom lip, feeling so powerless. As we walked, through the corner of my eye, I saw something white through the bushes. I wasn't able to see what it was, and we arrived in front of that tree. My lips went dry, and I felt as if a bucket of cold water was thrown at me. They instructed me to stand next to the tree, as they tied my hands to it and covered my mouth as well. Then they started chanting, and all along I could hear the heavy steps coming from behind me. I started moving my hands, trying to get at least one of my hands loose to get the knife that was hiding in my kimono. But it was too late. The steps stopped behind me, and I could hear the demon take a deep breath. I closed my eyes, waiting to feel the pain in my stomach, but instead, the demon cried out, "This isn't the girl I wanted." The people with the white bells all fell to their knees as one of them stepped forward to say, "We're sorry, but that girl is sick. She wouldn't have been to your liking. This girl, though, is full of health," the chief said as he pointed to me. The demon didn't reply as it stepped forward, showing itself from behind a tree. The demon was horrifying. It was a big demon, as big as a tree that I was tied to. It had long white horns. Its eyes were sunken and black. The moment it had opened its mouth, it released such a pungent smell, like rotten flesh. I wanted to throw up, but my mouth was covered. What it did next was something that no one expected. It suddenly vanished from sight before appearing behind a group of people. The demon slashed through each of them in one swift swing. I could see its black, sharp claws easily cutting through the flesh. The group of people that was still alive a minute before were all scattered lifeless on the ground. Only the chief was left standing. "Please, spare me. I'll bring you my daughter." I felt disgusted at his words when I felt someone undoing the rope that had me tied to the tree. When I turned, there was a man I've never seen before, with long white hair and beautiful blue eyes that almost seemed to glow in the night, and his numerous white tails that came from behind him. A fox demon. When my hands were finally free, he quickly took away the cloth that was on my mouth, but before I could say anything, I heard the cry of the chief before his body was tossed to the side. The demon looked at me before making its way towards me, stepping on the lifeless bodies that were on the ground. I quickly grabbed the knife that I had hidden before a noise startled the demon, and when it turned, a rock was thrown towards it. It was my father. "Leave my daughter alone," my father said, and without thinking, I flung myself towards the demon. I stabbed him on his back, but it didn't even faze him. Instead, with one swift turn, he threw me to the ground, and I felt all the air escape from my lungs. My vision went blurry as I felt the demon pick me up from my neck. I could see my father running towards me. "No, don't. Run away," I wanted to say, but I couldn't speak anymore as my vision was turning dark. And that's when the demon caught fire. But it wasn't like any normal fire. The flames were blue instead. The demon let go of me, and before I hit the ground, someone had caught me in their arms. I couldn't make out what was happening as I was trying to get my vision back. All I could hear was the horrible screeches that the demon was releasing, until there was silence. Then I felt a soft kiss on my forehead, and suddenly all the pain in my vision came back like magic. "Are you all right?" I heard the fox demon say. I was trying to process what happened as I saw the body of the demon still burning. I looked around until I saw my father coming towards me, and the fox demon gently put me down on the ground. "You saved me and my father," I said. He didn't say anything as my father kneeled next to me and looked around to see if I was hurt. "Thank goodness," my father said, and then he looked at the person that had saved me and got a little tense when he noticed the white towels. "Thank you for saving my daughter and me and the whole village by getting rid of that demon. What can I do to repay you?" my father said carefully. "Give me your daughter as a reward," the fox demon said bluntly. Our eyes went wide as my father said, "Anything but that, I beg you," my father said. I got close to my father and I hugged him. "Dad, I can't go back to the village. If I did, they might find me suspicious for surviving when everyone else didn't. I don't want anything to happen to you, or Mom, or Aya. It's for the best that I disappear and make it seem that I also got killed." My father wanted to protest, but he knew in the end that I was right. Then the man next to me spoke. "I will take good care of her." My father, of course, didn't want to accept it, but he couldn't deny that he would protect me since he killed the demon that was about to devour me. "Promise me that you will protect my daughter," my father said, looking at the man straight into his eyes. "I promise." "Father, you have to head back home now. We don't want anyone to think that it was your doing." My father hesitated. "You could still run away, all of us together. I could go get your mother and Aya before anyone finds out what happened." I shook my head. "We both know that this is for the best, for all of us." My father sighed and gave me one last hug before disappearing into the forest. Then the fox demon tore a piece of my kimono, smeared it with some blood that was on the ground, and put it next to the demon. "It's to make people think that you also got killed," he said as he started walking away. I looked at the brutal scene, finding it hard to believe that I survived that. When I looked up, I saw the fox demon waiting for me, and it reminded me of the scene of the little white fox that led me home 13 years ago. Could it be? I made my way to the fox demon, sealing my fate with him, for my life was now in his hands. "You couldn't be the same fox that led me home many years ago, right?" I said carefully, as I saw one of his toes twitch. "At the time, I was just a normal fox, but after leading you home, my good deed turned me into what you see now. I could switch from a fox to the form you see now," he said. A smile broke into my lips. "You saved me, twice now." He patted my head. "You saved me as well. An innocent fox wouldn't have been able to survive for long in this world." "What's your name?" I asked, but he didn't reply until he finally said, "I don't have a name yet," he said. I followed close by him, my fate sealed with his since 13 years ago. I was going to miss my family, but I didn't want to lose hope and think that I would never see them again. I knew I would see them again, and I knew that no one else was going to be sacrificed after today. And if any other demon tried to threaten the village, I could count on the demon fox for help.